Birdemic, Shock and Terror, is not just a bad movie, it's a glorious disaster of epic proportions. From the laughable CGI to the wooden acting, to the nonsensical plot, every scene is a treasure trove of unintentional comedy. This movie tries to be a cautionary tale about environmental destruction, but instead, it's a cautionary tale about what happens when you make a movie with no budget, no script, and no clue. We open on Rod, a man who seems to be awkwardly wandering through life and this movie. He's walking like he's practicing for a modeling audition, but it's actually his everyday walk to work. As fate would have it, he bumps into Natalie, a girl from high school who somehow remembers him, despite his cardboard personality and rigid dialogue. They exchange pleasantries in the stiffest conversation you've ever heard seriously. It feels like they're both reading directly off cue cards. Rod goes to work at his exciting job as a software salesman. It's clear this scene is supposed to establish that Rod is successful, but all it really establishes is that he's a guy who talks a lot about nothing. He closes $1 million deal with all the enthusiasm of a guy ordering a sandwich. Meanwhile, his boss congratulates him like he just won the Nobel Prize for best phone call ever. Now that Rod is a successful, eco-conscious millionaire, it's time for him to woo Natalie. They go on a date, which consists of the world's least passionate dinner conversation, and you're left wondering if these two are actually on the same planet. Despite the complete lack of chemistry, they somehow fall for each other. An awkward dance at a bar with a band playing background music that sounds like it was lifted from a karaoke machine. Their dancing is a masterclass in not knowing how to dance. The romance montage abruptly ends, and now it's time for the birds. Finally, except not quite yet. Instead, we get more scenes of Rod and Natalie going about their day. Bam! The birds arrive. Only they don't fly like birds. They dive bomb like kamikaze pilots, explode like firecrackers, and screech like malfunctioning car alarms. It's chaos, while the birds hover above like the worst CGI villains ever made. Rod and Natalie, now joined by two random survivors they picked up probably because they were the only other people on set, gear up to fight back. Their weapon of choice? Coat hangers. Yes, while the birds are bombing and exploding all over the place, our brave heroes decide that coat hangers are their best shot at survival. In one of the most unintentionally hilarious moments in cinema, they exit a motel room wielding their coat hangers like seasoned warriors. They swat at the air, fully believing they're fending off a deadly threat, while the birds are clearly nowhere near them. The group piles into a van and decides to hit the road. Their destination? Who knows? They're just driving to get away from the birds and hopefully from the movie itself. Along the way, they make pit stops, not for gas or supplies, but just so the birds can attack again. At one point, they run into a gas station attendant who nonchalantly informs them that the gas is $100 a gallon because supply and demand. Meanwhile, they're in the middle of a bird apocalypse, and no one seems all that concerned about the fact that birds are literally exploding outside. Capitalism never sleeps. Our intrepid survivors encounter a group of people stuck on the side of the road. They heroically decide to rescue them, but the birds have other plans. Exploding seagulls descend upon the group, causing chaos. Some make it, some don't, but none of it makes much sense. One couple even decides to run off into the forest for no reason, only to meet a grim fate, presumably at the beaks of birds, though we never see it. Because this movie needed to be even more bizarre, we're now treated to an impromptu science lesson. A random scientist shows up to explain that the birds are attacking because of, you guessed it, global warming. His explanation is long, convoluted, and completely unconvincing, delivered with the urgency of someone ordering fast food. The environmental message is not so much subtle as it is hammered into your brain repeatedly. Just when you think things couldn't get weirder, the movie ends. The birds, which have been dive bombing and exploding for the last hour, suddenly just stop. They fly away. No reason is given. No resolution is offered. They just decide to leave, and the survivors stand on a beach, staring blankly into the sky as the birds flap off into the sunset. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride through the world of outrageous bird chaos. If you enjoyed the hilarity and want more epic movie disasters and funny recaps, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Got thoughts on this bird apocalypse or another movie disaster you want us to cover? Drop a comment below. Your feedback helps us bring you even more entertaining content, and remember to click the bell icon